My name is Bridget. This is my 5-minute final presentation, video final for fall 2017. So I did my presentation, my paper about, and my unit plan on the 5 senses with a concentration on apples. So I work in a pre-K classroom in Queens, and there are many things that I wanted to focus on during this unit plan, but obviously the main things were, the students' 5 senses: sight, taste, smell, touch, and hearing, while incorporating our theme of apples at this point when we were doing our midterm and during our time in school when we were focused on this. So the reason why I chose the 5 senses to do for this midterm was because these students, it's so important. It's so important. It's one of the main topics I think the students will use throughout their growth and throughout education, starting in pre-K. Like, I'm setting the basis for them, and it's only building from there. So that's one of the reasons I chose that. One of the main reasons I chose that unit plan. And apples is right in the fall. It was one of the main fruits that we spoke about, and that's huge. It's connecting things from home to the classroom. The children were going to the orchard at this point in time, so this helped to get them excited, get them involved in what was about to happen. So I started with sight because sight I think is the best because it's so broad, and you can use your sight before any other sense. You can see something from 10 feet away, 100 feet away, 20 feet away, and that's the first thing you'll notice. You will not notice the smell at first unless, it's coming through the door or something like that. But I think sight is the main reason. So I started with that. We did apple sorting, and that the parents sent in. I have great parents. They send in, whatever they need, whatever I need. And they sent in apples with the students, the student's favorite apple. We took a red piece of paper, a yellow piece of paper, and a green piece of paper, laid them out in the middle of the rug. The students came up with their favorite apple, decided what color it was, told their friends, and they placed it on the correct piece of paper. We also, to do taste, we took those apples the next day, and my assistant cut them up. Here's the green. We put a green dot on the bottom of the bowl. They would cut them up, skin them, so that there was I'll put a picture in, but so that the students would not know what color they were about to taste. Yellow, red, and they took a bite of it, every student, after we went around the room and did a whole lesson on, smell, taste. And they went around the room, each took a bite of a green, a red, and a yellow, just picked which one out of which bowl they liked, and then I told them, no, that wasn't yellow, that was the green one. They didn't know that was what it was. They thought it was the yellow one because they assumed they liked that the best. So then they took their picture and put it in. I have a chart right here that we voted our elf's name. They put it into that chart with, I'll put a picture up of what they did, their favorite, what they ended up liking, their favorite, the best, whatever flavored apple. So to recap, I used Apples by Gail Gibbons for sight because one of the pages, there's so many different types of apples that are on this page that I was able to show them before we sorted. There's red, there's yellow, there's green, there's all different sizes, and so on, because I would sort them by color, and then I sorted them as well by size. Taste, I used Apples Everywhere. It's by Robin Coots, and one of the reasons I did that was because in this they have a page that says that they are tarts, so we used our vocabulary for that week. I wrote that in our paper as well. The next topic I focused on was smell. The smell, to follow up with taste, I sent home a follow-up sheet that I we'll add attached to this. And I had the students cut out of a magazine things that they thought had a strong smell versus a weak smell, which was part of my whole lesson. Vinegar versus water. You smell them. The vinegar has a very different smell versus water, and that was we did in small group activity before we tasted our apples. So, before we smelled the different odors and stuff. So that is what we did for smell. I read the book I Stink by Jim and Kate McMullen. It's a great story. They talk about the alphabet soup, which they start with apple core. So the students love that. And they went on to so many funny different things. These kids get a kick out of this book every time I read it. I love to read this book to them. And it's about a garbage truck. And without the garbage trucks, it shows the students that there would be garbage everywhere. So that they need to appreciate that. And that it would smell so bad. They talk about dirty diapers and puppy poop and whatever else. So for smell, I did send home a follow-up sheet that the students cut out. They didn't cut out, I'm sorry. They went into their pantry and they smelled different things. I went around in the beginning and I had them smell garlic powder versus sugar. And garlic powder has a lot more potent smell versus sugar, as well as we went around with the apple crisp thing. Oh no, that was for taste, I'm sorry. We went around with the different things and they smelled the differences between them and they decided which one had an odor, which one did not. No, with the apple crisp they did do that, and then they went around. There was things on the table. The students were able, with my lower students, I brought them onto I sat with them and made sure that they had the same thing that had cinnamon versus sugar. So then they were able to smell which one was, they had the cinnamon, so that I knew that that was a potent smell as well. And they were able to tell me that. Finally, with my lesson 4, touch and hearing, I did those together because I just felt like they went hand in hand, more so with the crunchiness and being able to touch how hard it is, the apples, and that is why I did that. So what I did was I used the book Applesauce Day by Lisa Am Stutz. I cannot find it right now, but it's in my bucket. And I used avocado and celery in a brown paper bag. One was soft. It was a peeled avocado. One was soft. Obviously the avocado, I stuck my hand in and the kids stuck their hands in. We went around. And the other one was celery. And they told me which one they thought was harder, softer. They used their vocabulary words. Crunchy. The celery would taste crunchy. Broke celery in half. Took a bite of celery. And showed them that it was crunchy just like an apple would be. I also, during lunchtime, they have different, they have french fries, so I gave them potato chips as well. Those are both made from potatoes. So I let them try soft versus crunchy, the soft french fry versus the crunchy potato chips. I continued that with, later on in snack, apples and applesauce. We have apples all the time. We were focused on apples, so it just made sense for them to have apples for snack. And they had applesauce with it. They each took a scoop. All right, everyone, take your scoop. Let me see. What do you think? How does it taste? And so on. And they would tell me if it was, hard, soft, and so on. And they did that. And then everyone took a bite of their apples. And then what did they hear when they took a bite of those apples? And that's what we did. Finally, I do want to I do want to tell you a little bit about the English language learners. The vocabulary alone, I wrote in my paper, would help the students immensely, as well as kids in special education. I do have children with IEPs, and those are the children that I made sure to sit with. Like I said during the apple crisp. When we made the apple crisp, they sat with me over there, and they at one of the tables, and I made sure that they had the cinnamon and versus the sugar, versus instead of having the butter and the flour, where there was a little smell, but not as extreme as the cinnamon would have been. The 5 senses, I think, are an intense, great topic to dive into with pre-K students, because they, like I said in the beginning, they will use this throughout their entire educational career, life, everywhere. You see things, you know, before you are able to taste and touch and all of that. So that is why I focused on the five senses. It worked out great with my timing for my classroom. And yeah, that is exactly, my paper has a few other points, and these are just the main points that I wanted to tell you what we did. Like I said, my parental involvement is insane. It's amazing, and I'm very lucky in that way, which was a big part of I spoke about that during in my paper as well. So I feel very lucky for that, and so they helped me a lot with bringing in different supplies and whatnot for the students. So thank you very much. Have a good day. Good night. This is the apple fact sheet, which I used as a follow-up for lesson 1 for the students to be able to tell me some fun facts they knew about apples. This is the apples that we eventually cut up and skinned so that the students were able to taste it without knowing what color they were eating and deciding which was their favorite. Those are the pictures we used for sweet versus sour that they posted the pictures up on lesson 2 as well. This is the follow-up activity they did at home with their parents, cutting out of magazines. This is what the chart that the students put their pictures in when they decided which one they liked the best out of that bowl. This is lesson 3, the strong versus weak. Odors, a follow-up activity right here. Odor versus odorless, they found in their pantry, they drew pictures of. This is soft versus hard when they used for lesson 4 with the touch. This is, we did an activity of sinking and floating with the students to see who voted which would sink, if they would sink or float. This is a leakies for my 5 senses board. This is apple crisp ingredients that we eventually made in our classroom. This was apple collaging that we did as well in our classroom for a bulletin board. And this is just one of the different bulletin boards that we use to show you all the fun things. Apple prints, and we use Scholastic, which you could see in the middle of, we always use Let's Find Out. And that was really what we used. The parts of an apple was a big thing. The students learned so much vocabulary using flesh, skin, core, leaf, seeds. We were able to see the shape of a star, and so on. So it was a great unit plan, and I appreciate all your feedback. Thank you very much.